Here we are, Wednesday,
Hey.
January 31st, breaking into our new Netrunner pack format where we've popped out the ID for the first pack of this cycle. This lovely HB security through Vigilance, and we're giving you a whole episode just based on what this thing can do. Our thoughts, our feelings, our unbiased opinions, unfiltered. Right, Hollis?
Raw, unfiltered. No, I have zero biases. Zero. Okay, maybe a few biases. Basically.
Entirely biased.
Entirely biased. And Alec, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. I want to just do a very quick shout out to last weekend's Store Champ winner down here in the Atlanta area. We had our boy Nick Brown coming out, winning this great Store Champ at Wasteland Games. Turns out a viewer and fan of this very show. So congrats to Lynn, Nick. It was a great performance.
Now I'm not one to draw dotted lines and conspiracy theories, but maybe he got some good intel.
Who knows? He certainly was playing good decks, so we'll take 2% credit. How about that? We'll just slice that one up. Yeah.
60% of the time, every winner watches Bad Publicity.
That's the guarantee when you watch Bad Publicity.
All right, so let's get into this lovely ID that I've murdered in the bottom corner of this square here and stretched it out beyond all recognition just to fill that hole right there.
Nice.
So this is the Asa.
I've been saying Asa.
I think you say Asa.
Yeah.
Asa. We got the breakdown from Josh in full Canadian. EH. He says A. Asa.
There you go.
I love
slap big maple leaf.
I love the Canadian translation.
Now you get it. Now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, are we having stream issues right now?
Ruh-roh.
Are you guys good on your side there?
I can see it, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect.
Like
all right.
Live.
Then away we go. The ASA group. So this is HB's new ID. This is a 45-15. So you're looking at the standard split. It's a division. That still doesn't mean anything. The first time you install a card each turn, you may install an additional non-agenda card from HQ in or protecting that server, paying all costs.
Pretty cool.
Let's hit up with an unofficial UFAQ ruling from Michael Boggs. So if the corp installs a piece of ice protecting a central server, can they use ASA group to install an upgrade in the root of the central server? The answer is no. Upgrades are installed in the roots of central servers, not in the central server themselves.
Nice. However, important to note, if you install in the root of a server, then you can use ASUS Group's ability to put a piece of ice protecting that server, right? You just can't do it the other way around. So think carefully, kids, before you decide which card to install first, because sometimes the order matters.
Timing is everything.
Mhm. I can't tell you the number of times trying out ASA decks where I've put down a calibration testing, click one, with a Project Vitruvia sitting in my hand, and then I go, oh wait, non-agenda cards. Whoops, messed up that order. So
Like,
pay
wait.
attention. Wait, the other way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you might have some nice people that will let you, don't worry about it. But if it's a professional tournament, you can probably get called out for that. And I don't know
That's right.
what the ruling would eventually be. Probably nothing good.
There you go. Serious gamers.
So thoughts, feelings.
Yeah. Hollis, you
Yeah.
you
Is
excited?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
excited. This is good. I mean, we saw, throughout the past year of Netrunner, we were in this weird space where we said, okay, what's happening with like the fast advance concept? Because it was very clear from FFG's intentions when we got a chance to talk to Damon and moving on to Boggs and so on and so forth. They made it very clear that the fast advance in its current form is the payoff is too big for what you're getting, or I mean, sorry, the payoff is too much for very little, right? Like it felt like you didn't invest a lot to really get the same payoff, and they're reworking it a little bit. Pieces are there, and I like that that ASA or ASA, I really don't know. Someone's gonna correct me every time I say it, anyways. I like that it gives you that it kind of breathes new life into Fast Advance. New cards are available to kind of like allow you to combo this, and I feel like the cards that are there with it are a bit more fair and like they're harder to use. They're easier to get rid of. They're more dangerous and risky, and I'm excited for this ID. Like I really am excited.
Excellent. I'm excited as well. I think the fast advance options with this card are really cool and really nice. I also want to point out that this ID actually does a lot to promote Glacier styles. Because if you've got one super solid remote server and you just keep plugging away with your ability, install, upgrade, install, upgrade, install, upgrade, install ice, click, 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 click. Suddenly you've got this incredibly huge server where you just dump your three-pointers into and can score fairly reliably, because not many runners are well equipped to deal with stacks upon stacks of defensive upgrades. So it's cool that the ID can really go in both directions, and when you sit across the table from an ASA group deck, you're not going to be totally sure what they're going to be up to, which is nice.
Geez. Okay. Well, I'm going to be the other side of the coin here. And that's just not to play devil's advocate. Like, I am excited, but I just feel that this is an okay ID. Like you said, what I think, without getting too much into cards that are spoiled, without getting too much into looking at the cycle as a whole, what I feel this cycle is doing is correcting and rebalancing a lot of cards that were broken, to say the least. So this ability is kind of it's an easier and more gentler engineering the future.
That's fair.
But that being said, unfortunately, right now, it's not the strongest ID in HB. We're still waiting on some kind of fix. Some people say fix. Some people say they doesn't need it. Some people, let's put the CI discussion to the side. We're still waiting to see if something happens with CI that will rebalance it, and maybe then this ID will pick up some steam. But looking at the rest of what HB has to offer is just a lot of blah from a competitive standpoint. There's some cool IDs in there.
Sure.
But, I mean, this is probably now the second most powerful HB ID, I would say. HB just like, unless Architects of Tomorrow really picks up steam with the rest of this cycle, but right now I really feel like the influence cut is hurting that one. But this one is just going to be the new probably go-to one after, if you can't wrap your head around cerebral imaging, if you're just getting into the game and this is the first cycle after you've picked up the core, you're probably not too excited to play Stronger Together, and that leaves this. And I feel like that's not a bad thing. I really like that HB is that, or should be that Glacier style faction. I feel like that's old roots. HB, like legacy HB, and yeah, this does help you build up those servers or protect them a lot better than what they've had in the past, and like I said, more balanced than what Engineering the Future used to do.
Yeah, I think those are totally fair points.
Thank you.
What I appreciate about this ID is that it is not so generic and not so straightforward in ways that Engineering the Future unfortunately was at times, where with Engineering the Future you're already installing cards, so you're going to gain that credit pretty much always, and that constant drip of economy fueled basically any strategy. Whereas with this ID, I think there's actually some really nice, skillful play to be gained from trying to get the most use out of the ID ability and deciding on a given turn, okay, how am I going to use this extra install? What's most important right now? Should I be establishing my econ? Should I be attempting to score an agenda, setting up my central servers, right?
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to think. You're just not playing the game. Like what Engineering the Future was, I'm just going to build a cool deck and my ID is going to reward me for playing the game anyway. This one, you're exactly spot on where some thought is actually going to have to go into the build.
Yep. And in gameplay, you're trying to make greatest efficiency out of this ability. In a way, it almost kind of reminds me of Haley in a funky parallel, because of that, trying to take advantage of the click compression, the efficiency, installing things. And there are some pretty crazy shenanigans you can do with this ID ability with combinations of HB cards installing in various ways on both players' turns. So I think it's an approachable ID because it offers something really understandable, but also has a great potential for skillful play, which I dig.
Yep. Yeah. I think that it's going to see some interesting cards that maybe didn't see the light of day before, that were HB cards, that maybe we're waiting for this to come out. Maybe it was strategically planned, or maybe this was designed to bring up the rest of those like in faction cards that just didn't see the possibility before. So
sure.
But I don't know. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be okay. And it's definitely going to be a go-to one that people are going to look at if HB is your play style. I think that it's the go-to HB right now, because I don't think that it's going to be the go-to HB if you're not all into on Cerebral. Right?
Sure.
Like there's really a love-hate with that deck. Like there's people that have been playing it before it was the powerhouse that it was, and they're still gonna play it through all its weird combos and whatnots. But there's people that just can't wrap their head around building towards that style. So this is going to be the one that I feel they pick up. So if you're a competitive player, you might want to think about getting some test games against this, because you'll surely see it as the HB go-to.
So if it's the HB go-to, are we going to put this ID on our tier list there for this pack? And if so, where's it going?
My preliminary, my consideration immediately makes me want to put it in good. Immediately in good.
I'm going to agree with you, Hollis. My vote would also be for good.
I would say it's above average. I don't think it's doing anything too crazy where it's like it's not an instant. Like to me, if it was good, it would be like or top tier. It'd be like everyone would be on this. Like it would be the new king of the world. This would be the DiCaprio, but I just don't feel I don't feel it's at this point. It's not any stronger than some of the other ones that are already out there.
Sure, and I think with any ID, when it comes out, it's got this kind of shininess to it, this fresh new coat of paint, and that might be part of the evaluation. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see where it goes over time, as we've seen with several of these HBIDs, like you're talking about, Architects, Satyr, etc., that come out and are interesting, but have kind of faded from popular view. So we'll see.
Yeah, you have to kind of look at it on. It's like a bell curve style thing, but you're not dropping the stuff at the end. You're dropping the stuff at the beginning, because when a new ID comes out, it's almost like there's a race to try and. Is it good? Is it bad? I think I have something, and I'm going to bring it to the tournament next week, thinking that maybe people aren't readily prepared to play against it. So there's that surprise factor that you're really catching a lot of people off guard, and some of the wins across the I'm not talking about one specific tournament. I'm talking about like all together. Some of the wins across the playing field are just people seeing it for the first time and not being prepared for a couple combos or being able to understand the archetype right away. So you can't really go by how many little tournaments it wins. The first month of release. You got to see the longevity of the game here.
Right. We'll see if it stands the test of time and really becomes like an iconic ID for the faction, which isn't guaranteed.
No, but I think it plays into something that HB likes to do, and that's and that's use combos and build up. Like HB likes to not that the players have played it that way, but if you read every card, HB likes to have a board presence, and their cards like to interact and do different things and force you into a style of play. But because of the way that players have been able to figure certain things out with HB builds, we've kind of gone away from that old style. And I don't know if that was intended by the design team or not, but that's just the way that the game is played now.
Right. And IDs will be more or less relevant with the meta depending on what other runner decks, for example, are popular and powerful. And currently, we don't have any wizard, so that gives assets a kind of boost. But we'll see. Things can definitely shift.
Yeah. So I, as much as I do like it, I don't think it's a powerhouse at the moment. It obviously will have potential, but yeah, that's going to depend on seeing what the rest of the cycle has. But right now, I just think it's an all right above average ID. I think it seems very balanced for what it is. It doesn't seem overly broken.
That's a good thing. I think we should be grateful. Yeah. Cool. Good. Well, should we
overly broken?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like the best description.
That's our spin-off podcast.
Yeah, comparing it to ETF, right? It's like, yeah, I'm happy this card is what it is and not ETF.
So where, I've said a bunch of things. Like, where do you guys think that if you were to throw out, like, what's the top 3 right now for you HB identities? Like, are we all in agreement? Like nothing really changes with cerebral imaging right now. It's probably still the most powerful HB.
Yeah.
Sure. I think you were correct when stating that this ID is probably the second best top tier HB identity. I think it just edges out Architects of Tomorrow, which was my previous pick for the second best.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's not even saying much, right? Like about how long HB's.
It's like CI, and then here's ASA, Architects, Seder next,
and then
Foundry.
Then it's like a right drop.
Right, and then we're off. Right, we're down in custom biotics land. Yeah. So they're all, pretty comparable, I think, with the exception of cerebral imaging. But yeah, within that sphere, it's up there.
Yeah.
You guys don't like Engineered for Success? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Your
thoughts there, Hollis? Are you in the same? Are you in the same pack? Or?
Yeah, man. There's just not any I'll put it like this: before, we had no HB identities that were good enough, other than CI, right? And that was because you could win in one turn. That would ever justify you playing an HB ID that wasn't Engineering the Future. It was either you played towards the win in one turn strat, right, with or the combo strat, or you just have a great ID, arguably, like the best, like ID, corp ID in the game, one of the best, right? Has to be. So now you get the card that is the baby, like the little baby brother version of it, and we're comparing it to the available HB IDs, and we still don't really have a comparison. It's basically, I mean, all that's happened now is that, what with the existing list that was there, where it was like ETF, CI, blah, 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 and even then CI, ETF would change depending on current dominant strat. Now all that's happened is that the top one's gone, so now everything just shifted up. But the thing is, like you said, Jameson, all that stuff that wasn't ETF or CI, it was all at the bottom anyway. Who cares? Like, people were not playing with anything other than, CI or ETF competitively, really. Like, I didn't see a Sadir, Labs, placed really highly. I never saw that. I didn't see that happen.
Sure.
I remember that was the rework. Like, if we're going to talk about little brothers, right? We can argue that's the little brother of Stronger Together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still not there yet. It's still not what we would want, as a rework for that ID. So I think that, maybe this is an example of them hitting that stride, finding that balance of power, or a better balance of power.
Wait, you're
where
saying
they can make an ID.
Are you just saying Sadir is the little brother of Architects, or do you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I am thinking of Architects.
Yeah.
The little brother. Mm-hmm. Sorry. But
yeah, we never really saw something crazily stand out with Architects of Tomorrow.
No,
right?
No. Yeah, I mean, and like if we look at the history of the game all the way back from when it was just core, right? ETF was so strong by itself that all the other IDs that came after it, Stronger Together, Custom Biotics, like there just wasn't there was not enough options anymore. Oh yeah, like remember Next Design, like. Mm-hmm. There just were not enough options available that were powerful enough that took the place of free clicks, free economy.
So,
and I think, good.
No. Yeah, keep going.
I think it's the same. I think that this is effectively the same issue. Is even though this is tiered down, there's an argument to be made that in some cases, right, this ability can be better than what we got out of ETF, depending on like how much you want to support this ID ability. And then on top of that, if that's the case, if it's at some points on par or in some cases maybe even better than ETF, I mean, hell, we might as well just. It's still going to be at the top of that food chain as far as what I feel.
You're right. I think our perspective on this whole thing is so skewed because we've lived in this era of ETF and cerebral imaging that have so warped our sense of what is and is not a good ID within the HB faction that something like this comes along, which is perfectly reasonable and is doing cool things and is a solid ability. And yet we're like, well, you know, it's not ETF, which was removed from the game entirely. So, well, I don't know. Like, you know, it's hard to evaluate because these things are so seared into our memories.
Yeah, and so as a side note and stuff too, is that I think these ones where we come and talk about IDs when we do these ID episodes, it's also going to be more of a look at the faction in itself. So it's not like we're just going to sit here and just talk about ASA. We're going to talk about how like the state of all these other IDs compared to it. And you know what I really feel. What I really feel about this card is again, it doesn't jump out at me as broken. It just seems like a good starting ID. Like there you go, play this card. And I think that what ASA is 5 years of design learning. Right? Because I look back at the other ones. You look at Engineering the Future. Okay, so that's the very first HB card that we, you know, ID we had. You had nothing to benchmark. You're like, okay, you know, this seems like a cool ID. And I mean, through the first couple of games and tournaments and stuff like that, it was starting to figure it out, that how powerful that this could be. But what happened was you went from really strong to looking at different ways to curve ID's ability that really broke them, even the slightest little bit, because there's really good abilities in HB that are hindered by their card breakdown. I really like Next Design, but sit there and try and build a Next Design. I love Next Design's ability. I think that I think it's so phenomenal. But that 12 influence killed it. So I love Cybernetics Division. I think it's really, really neat. Again, design space to get into now to start playing with hand size, and you had all the other cards that you know, you're scoring those 3/1s that are killing the player's hand size and stuff too. I don't know why it affected both players had to reduce their hand size by 1, but again, why couldn't they make it like the 45, you know, 15? It's not like you can't play it like that. But again, like they're really trying to skew this down, right? That's where things started to get out of control. So they went from something incredibly powerful to thinking about great ID abilities and how to offset them. And how to offset them, they started to play with those numbers of influence. Even Architects of Tomorrow, right? I think Architects of Tomorrow, again, really, really cool ability, but then it's like smashed down again with only having 12 influence.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I've tested it out with 15 or done anything to test these other ones with how I want them to be, but you know, if you made Architects of Tomorrow 15 influence, Would that have made it incredibly broken? I don't know. Right? If Next Design was 15 influence, would that have been incredibly broken? I don't. Going back and looking at where the game state was at that time, I don't think so. I think it would just I think it would have offered some choice, because at that time too, where Alec, you made a point about, you know, the corps are only as strong as the runners being played. The time when Next Design came out, that was like Shaper, and that was like everyone was running SMC, so you could like people were building their rigs so quickly and just smashing into everything you had anyway. It was like you were still packing inside jobs to jump ice, to sneak doors. You know, it was the time of powerful anti-criminal decks. So I don't think it would have done anything. So I think Ace is just really balanced from what I'm seeing. I'm glad they've left the 15 influence there. I'm glad that this is the first one into the new cycle for players to get excited for, but I don't want to see anything too drastic, because they've done a lot of they've done a lot of hurting in HB IDs for a while. I mean, there's just nothing that I don't think a competitive player looks at the HB landscape and really has choice. Right.
I think you're totally correct there. And the environment that these IDs were released in, I think, has left an impression on all of us about how good they may seem. Classic quote that we throw around every so often from Damon Stone: perception is reality, right? We've perceived these IDs to be not very high tier, and so they remain, you know, pretty low in our perception of their power levels. So it's nice to get something fresh and new to come into this HB space, to maybe go like, well, is this the thing that's gonna get HB players excited to try new decks and is actually going to be solidly viable in a competitive space? I think there's a lot of hope there for HB players, particularly ones who aren't interested in cerebral imaging.
And unless you're really like digging for like a hidden gem, and you're now going to go back and be like, all right, you know, I'm the guy with this new ice suite that's going to bring the Foundry out of nowhere. I think it is going to be the one that people are excited for, with Engineering the Future being moved off. If something happens to cerebral imaging, this is the one that people are going to pick up right away.
Yeah, totally. And I really like what Adrian in chat said, which is that this ID, it does work, but only the right deck, which means you really have to be thoughtful about your deck building choices and making something that's going to synergize together and take greatest advantage of the ID. And it's a fun challenge. It's definitely been good to try this ID out.
And I've seen the quote, you touched on it a bit, saying you can pretty much compare this ID to Haley, where Engineering the Future was more of, you know, the corp version of Kate. Economy is just... Economy is too dangerous to play with. It seems like in the Netrunner space. You know, if you're giving that boost, if you have an ID boost that is something to do with either save money or gain money, you're just putting the whole universe out of whack. And it's going to be a while for that to be fixed, because I mean, we just had rotation, and I don't think that's a road that we should go down again anytime soon. I say that, and probably like in the next pack, the NBN ID is going to be something about every time you do this, gain a credit, and it's going to be back to square one. And we're just like, oh my god, shit.
Gosh, Boggs,
Yeah.
got us again.
We thought we
Cool.
were safe. We thought.
Yeah.
So, Hollis, you got anything then to say, man, about the state of this stuff, or?
No, I very much agree with a lot of your points. I think that we're at that place where very specific abilities on cards, on IDs especially, if they're very specific as opposed to general, they have to be quite boosted to garner towards a particular strategy versus being universally good. That's going to win most of the time. Because when you have those specific, the cards that are very good in specific decks, they also, in addition to that card, they got to have the other tools, the other cards to support it. So it doesn't matter if Architects of Tomorrow can give us 8 credits to res Bowroids. By the way, that's ridiculous. But if we only have 2 or 3 Bowroids that are worth playing, and they're real bad, like if every Bowroid's bad, I guess free ice is free ice, but it's not gonna we're only getting the discount for very specific pieces of ice. So you got to make it worthwhile. You got to make the ice available that will support that worth it. And whereas with ETF and IDs like it in this case, and more likely like with ASA, there's just less. Yes, there's in general you can make multiple decks out of it probably, and utilize that ability to great effect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just I think you mentioned this is a 5-year learning process. Absolutely. I think they're seeing this more often. Specific IDs that cater to very specific strategies. Yeah, you got to make them a little better than the generally good ones, because otherwise, people can just play that deck archetype in the generally better deck and get the average benefit, as opposed to this very specific boosted benefit with only one shtick. So yeah.
There's definitely going to be a couple ways to grab synergy off this right now, which is really cool. That is my transition line to you, Alec. Like, why don't you break down some of these combos that we're kind of seeing, and how to let's talk about value. Take me to Value Town. What am I?
I'm all about Value Town, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, let me tell you all the great things you get when you come to ASA, man.
I think you should be the bad publicity resident. You are the mayor of Netrunner Value Town, man.
Oh, I'm so honored. I'm gonna get one of those like sashes, and I'll have a big key that says Value. It'll be great. All right.
Make sure you're wearing the Guy Fieri like flame shirt.
Oh yeah, Flavor Town Value.
Yeah.
There you go. Got it. All right. Sweet. Well, let me break it down for you. We got 3 delicious flavors of ASA Group to offer up to you today. It's fantastic stuff. First up on the menu is Pure Fast Advance, right? This is a deck that it's going in there. It's basically not making crazy remotes. It's not trying to be super defensive. It's like, let's secure these centrals and then just power out agendas.
Did you want me to cut to a deck list while you're talking about this stuff, or are you just breaking it down first before we go?
I'll break it down one at a time, and then we'll go. We can go back and I can point you to some specific decks.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's your Pure Fast Advance. Go fast, go hard. Second type is a kind of mid-range ASA group that has fast advance options, but also is comfortable sitting around and kind of building up specific combinations of cards, maybe some more defensive upgrades. And so you're really quite flexible with the runner strategy. If they're going to try and rush you or be more controlling, you can adapt accordingly. And then the third type, and maybe my favorite, even though I don't think it's the best type, is the kind of combo glacier-y click lock style, which leans on some new cards that really slow down the runner and force them to deal with your intense glacier action, a pure chilling effect on all your clicks, and can lead to some fun moments of 8 defensive upgrades in a single server and the runner just like not having a chance, unless they've got Film Critic, which is a big counter. But anywho, so these are the sort of 3 categories, and I got examples of each that we can talk about really briefly, and we can highlight like one or two key card combinations and maybe find some commonalities between all these decks of like, here's where you start. Yeah. So
one of my favorite Value Town plays probably coming off here, and I think it's going to be, I think it is the key automatic. I'm going to play Asa. Next card in the deck, auto include, I think, is the Architect. I just because of the and as you being the mayor, you probably, I don't want to steal your thunder, but you can walk through some synergy of why you're getting value out of this being able to play off turn.
Oh yeah, well, if you carefully examine the Asa group identity, it says the first time you install a card each turn, meaning that you've most likely made use of this ability on your turn, and then it's the runner's turn. The subroutine on Architect fires because maybe they think all of your Biroids are super porous and they're just going to walk through it, and you go, haha, no, there's this powerful card called Architect. And you get to fire the subroutines, and all of a sudden, you're looking at the top 5 cards of R&D, you're seeing what's coming up, you can set up a particular combo, and from the installation off of R&D, you can then get a trigger of your ability, maybe get another card from Archives to put on top of that server. There's just all sorts of shenanigans you can pull off.
Yeah, any way that you can pull an ID ability off turn is phenomenal. So I think that's one of going to be an auto include and a theme. We saw what Architect can do, and now that it's got free running reign again, where there's no restrictions against it, I really think that piece of ice is going to see the resurgence it needs.
Absolutely. The other card I want to highlight, just as a general think about it in basically every Asa deck, is Ultraviolet Clearance. This transaction allows you to draw cards, seems good, gain money, seems good, and most importantly, install one card, which allows you to then install another card because of your ability, and you've just drawn a whole hand of new cards. And being an ID that's pretty aggressively installing things, your hand actually tends to empty out a fair bit. And so if you're down to 1 or 2 cards, you get that ultraviolet level clearance, all of a sudden you're back in business. And it is super powerful for reloading your ability and gaining you that economy.
Yeah, and you know what I really like about the combo, especially with ultraviolet clearance with the Asa group, like all of these cards before that were ultraviolet clearance is a triple, but even cards that are like doubles, and especially this card being the triple, is normally you would end, like, boom, play it, end your turn, but because you're still in that window and the ID can trigger, you're gaining value out of it because you're getting that free install. You're normally you wouldn't be able to set yourself up with anything too detrimental. It's like install one card paying its cost, and like it wouldn't be a key piece of the puzzle, or it's not like you're going to put an agenda out, naked on your last turn. But now it's like, boom, put something in there, tuck something away, do whatever you need to do. And I just think that that's so awesome to be able to get value out of a triple. And
Absolutely.
And just to clarify too, is that you are able to use the funds and the cards that you get from that. For you new players. So if you don't have any money, you can play the ultraviolet clearance. You gain 10. That goes into your credit pool right away. You can use that 10 to then, install the first card paying the cost, and then install your bonus card paying the cost. It's not like you have to complete the whole card, and then the money is actioned over to you.
There you go.
Just a little something for the new people that join us.
Nice. Always keeping a good eye out there. So should we talk about a deck or two?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
Which one are we going to first?
Let's go with Ultraviolet Calibrations by Crams. For those at home, you can go to Netrunner DB, and under deck lists, you can search for the name of the deck. Again, that's Ultraviolet Calibrations. And we could even maybe put the link in the description of this video. I don't want to give you too much extra work, but we could put some links in there if we're feeling generous. So this would be my example of what I found for pure Fast Advance. And it is a no holds barred, no defensive upgrades. It's got 3 Breaker Bay grids, 3 calibration testing, 3 advanced assembly line, 2 shipment from Tenon, which are a very telling piece in Fast Advance, and an agenda suite to support economy, card draw, and scoring out agendas. That's all it's doing. It's just got, decent ice, decent money, card draw, and Fast Advance.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these builds, and I think some of the stuff that you're obviously going to see is, again, you can see the architect here, placement in, great piece of taxing work with Fairchild. 3-0, you got 2-0 there, and I really like the inclusions. I think all of these, if I'm not mistaken, are obviously including the new Ikawa project, just because the taxing ability of it, and obviously this is utilizing some of the Fast Advanced capabilities to get stuff rolling with here. I just think this is a great, a great time for this 5/3 ID to steal some thunder from some of the other ones we've had.
Sure, and it definitely is an interesting conversation to be had, right, between Ikawa Project and Elective Upgrade, because Elective Upgrade does give you that extra click once per turn for the 2 agenda counters there, and so in a deck like this, you could definitely consider it as an extra kind of biotic labor on a stick to give yourself more options if you haven't drawn the right combination of calibration testing and shipment from Tenon. So
and
it's interesting.
Even here, you see the lateral growth. Gain 4, you may install a card, paying cost. So then you'll be able to, again, you're looking at synergy there.
Yeah, for sure. So this is quite solid deck. Definitely has a lot of cards we're going to see in a couple of the other decks. Definitely Fairchild 3.0. For those that are unaware, that little unicorn symbol next to the card indicates that it's the choice from the Corp's restricted list. So by choosing Fairchild 3.0, it means the deck is not running Global, not running, several other options of Corp cards there. But I think it's a great choice. Fairchild 3.0 has definitely proven its worth, and we'll be seeing it a lot.
So what's your thoughts on this here? Like, you're looking at all of the influence pretty much being tied up in 2 cards, calibration testing and the shipment from Tenon.
Yeah, I think calibration testing kind of speaks for itself in how good it is across pretty much all ASA decks here, because of that synergy, an extreme synergy with the ID ability, and also Breaker Bay Grid, right? That you can reduce that 3 credit res cost to 0. Is just huge value. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Shipment from Tenon, it's a solid choice. It's a little interesting to see no biotic labor here, but maybe they're trying to run light in terms of credits, and think that they can reliably find a window to use shipment from Tenon. So it is a hefty amount of influence, but you do get a really solid set of fast advanced tools.
Yeah, my opinion on that situation is even going back into some of the deck designs that I was playing before rotation hit, is I still think even after rotation, we're at a state of the game where there's still a healthy size card pool, and it just shows that what an ID can do to utilize all of the tools inside its base faction. These base factions can almost pretty much stand on their own now, and you can afford to. I mean, you could pretty much afford to, if cards like some of these cards that are coming out that have, full 5 influence, if you want to pull 3 of those in, you technically could.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
I said, because of the size of the card pool and the self-sufficiency of the factions now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's really, like, obviously there's going to be choices that are better than others, but I mean, most factions don't really have that big of a weakness anymore. Like before, it used to be, Wayland was the barrier faction. You'd have the big barriers in Wayland, but now we've seen barriers, in good barriers, to slip across to other factions. So, as an example, so those gaps are being plugged. Like, they're not going to be as good as some other choices, but they can still stand up.
Yeah, 100%.
Hollis, any thoughts on this deck here?
To me, I mean, the moment I looked at each of these cards on here, the deck basically just appears to be pretty straightforward. I mean, this guy's accelerating to get to his fast advanced options as soon as he can. I mean, ice. This gives him the ability to say, "Hey, I'm going to install a piece of ice, and I'm going to install I'm going to install a brick array grid, and here's a piece of ice right now on the remote. Got it." If I want to do fast advance, I have a server now that I can do it out of pretty quickly here. Following turn, rinse and repeat. Install. Now that Breaker Bay is down, hey, let's install another piece, another upgrade, calibration testing, and another piece of ice. That quickly, you've got 2 pieces of ice, a Breaker Bay grid, a calibration testing. So you can start to go. I mean, you can spin another click, jam an agenda in there, and just say spin another click, jam an agenda in there, and wait. If your opponent, if you're pretty confident your opponent can't get through, you can just res the ice, just go. Advance. Res this card for free. Here's another advancement. Scored a 4-2 right now, or 3-2. Just really quickly. So I think it's a very straightforward deck. The shipment from Tenon, to me, also speaks a lot towards, I guess, the players, or maybe just inherently the decks, the confidence that comes with playing a deck like this because you are set up so quickly. Clearly, the idea is that in the early going mid, you are set up faster than the runner has economy, and eventually you're going to start to starve them or choke them out of being able to run reliably. And when that does happen, in the one turn where the runner has to spend that turn gaining economy as opposed to just continuously making runs, because you can get those defenses up so quickly, it feels like that's the point where the shipment from 10 all of a sudden cards out a much bigger window. If you recall, when you played fast advanced decks against HB that were utilizing things like shipment from San and oh goodness, what card am I thinking of, guys? The 4/2 that gives you free clicks.
Efficiency committee,
which is of course here. Well, not here, but like when you start looking at decks like that back before rotation, when you played against those decks, giving them 2 credits, right, between advanced assembly line, team sponsorship, shimmer from San, basically, if you gave them 2 credits, so many things happened because of the 2 credits. You were able to let them float, and then once that train starts rolling, it was very hard to disrupt it. And I think that Um, Now, at that time, of course, the cards of trash were kind of expensive. This is a little better. A little better now, but it feels very much like that same game, right? It feels like it's moving really quickly. If you give them just a tiny window to get the ball rolling, it's gonna basically snowball completely. Shout out to a card that nobody plays anymore, ever. But yeah,
Nice.
What do you got for the next one, buddy?
Cool. Let's move on to a legitimately good Ace deck.
what a great name.
Which is a lot of confidence. It has apparently 10 wins and 0 losses on Jinteki.net, so it's got to be great. I've played with this deck a fair bit, mostly for one spice card that it's got in there, but I want to highlight the really solid component pieces that make this more mid-rangey. And what I mean by that is that it's got a flexibility to go fast or to be defensive. And that comes from cards like Daily Business Show, Jeeves Model Byroid, and Ash, which are really nice for setting up specific combinations of cards in key servers and using cards like Jeeves to be able to more reliably score agendas in servers over a turn or 2 turns. So we've got Ash to help you out. Again, probably free because of Breaker Bay Grid, and is installed easily because of Ace's ability. And then just good solid ice. Definitely ice that's more geared to counter certain prominent cards like Aomakua. But that's kind of a meta call. Otherwise, yeah, I just think it's got some good fundamentals with a little extra spice, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I like I like what's happening here, and it's mid-range, but it's got the fast advanced capabilities. You know, you're using the, like it says over here, like, right, the Project Vitruvius, pretty much nothing to say. It's the 3/2. That's the one that you kind of want to be bombing out.
Oh yeah.
Where the balance comes in is the 3 copies of the Akiwa project, where you're probably not trying to get these scored out. You're using the built-in protection and hoping those can't be stolen. Just like with the Future Perfect, right? Like, you didn't really want to be scoring Future Perfects out or fetal AIs out. They were just there to trip the runner up, slow them down, speed bump them, so that you could do your other plays. I like the inclusion of Ash, definitely with Asa. I feel, again, just like Architect is a no-brainer. I think Ash is definitely a no-brainer to be able to just slap it in.
Totally.
With ID ability. We know that card is core set, man, and if you've played this game long enough, you have definitely been slapped in the face by an Ash trace and an Ash ability. Super powerful, just an amazing card that's not going away anytime soon. Again, Breaker Bay Grid, calibration testing seems
pretty
like
solid.
Yeah, seems like it's the way to go. A couple old tried and tested true cards in there, and he throws in a biotic and the ultraviolent. Obviously there's some tech in here with Swordsman, and a little bit interesting play with the Root, though.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because it's really what drew my eye to this deck, because I've got a soft spot in my heart being a longtime Whaling player for the Root. It's a card that I've always wished worked.
That's why I gave you this underhanded setup.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate the pitch. Well, here you go. Let me tell you why the Root is dope in this deck.
Talk to me.
You've got your ID ability that allows you to set up remote servers at lightning speed. You also highly incentivized to play Breaker Bay Grid. So with the ASA group, you can get a server of Solid Piece of Ice, Root, Breaker Bay Grid, res it all, and you're getting 3 credits every turn to do whatever you want. And it actually generates a pretty powerful amount of economy because the credits you're getting off the route are quite flexible. And it's something that the runner is now highly incentivized to go trash. So that's slowing them down. If you resed the route on the cheap, you're all set. You've probably gotten value out of it already. I think it's a really cool idea to put this in here. Now, I got to admit, I actually don't think it's the best card for that slot in this deck. And I'll tell you why. There's another Wayland card, same amount of influence, that I think can generate way more economy at a lower cost. Any ideas?
Well, you know,
Hit me.
Yeah, no, wait. Give it a second to see if to see
the chat knows.
Yeah, we're on broadcast delay.
There you go.
So
same influence, Wayland, lots of money.
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 You know what? If I knew it was going to be this way, we should have had a prize queued up or something.
That's right.
For your trivia.
A pop quiz.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can get it.
All right. It's the main man, Brian's.
Oh, we had a guess for commercial bankers, but
that's a fun idea. I was gonna suggest Brian Stinson for a couple reasons. One is he's an installable in an upgrade, right? You can put that in your big remote server there, protect him like all the other things. He is incredible with ultraviolet level clearance, and because you've got Ash and a lot of expensive to trash cards, the likelihood that the runner is going to get taxed down to a point where Brian can go off is pretty high. And if you get one turn of Brian Stinson going off, you're kind of set for pretty much the whole game. And that is extremely powerful. So that would be my one suggestion for this deck, card-wise, is think about Brian. He's really good.
I think I would like Brian too. Like,
it's hard as a one of though, Hollis though.
My immediate consideration for this deck was honestly, given the sheer number of upgrades and things like that that are in here and assets, I almost was thinking, looking at the deck, I was looking at this going, man, maybe he should just like cut this route, put this influence somewhere else, and make sure he's got the third Breaker Bay. You know what I mean? To guarantee that this card can be installed and allow you to res upgrades and assets, at a very cheap cost, given the fact that he's got like Adonis and things like that. But then again, maybe he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's got enough money coming in to where the res costs of the other cards are fine. But hey, I mean, you're the king of Value Town,
hey
Alex. So I guess when I looked at it, I was like, maybe, I mean, even if it's only 2 credits,
sure,
that's still a value for your Maryland campaign. A Breaker Bay, have Maryland come out,
sure,
straight gain money.
Sure. I'll point out 2 things. One is that there is 2 copies of Daily Business Show in this deck.
So I was gonna say that if it depends.
That does help.
If your business shows are firing, you're cycling.
Yeah.
Right. So that'll get you that combination of cards.
But I personally would be looking at this to try and the one biotic, I would feel really comfortable if that was at least a 2.
Yeah, and so maybe you look at cutting 1 advanced assembly line, or maybe do you need Jeeves in there? Jeeves is nice, but is it as reliable as a biotic? These are the trade-offs. Deck slots are really tight.
Yep, but I think that if you're looking, but I don't know. Maybe if you up the biotic labor count, then you're not playing that mid-range style anymore. Now you're really focused on, I'm just gonna fast advance some stuff. So
Right.
You're
Trade-offs.
now you're changing the composition.
But cool deck. Definitely check that one out and
Yeah.
give that a try.
Bonus points, smiley face for the Director Haas's pet project. Just
a great include. Thumbs up.
What do you got next?
All right, this is my grand finale. This is the great meme that was promised. One of my favorite decks I've seen this cycle, but I wouldn't recommend it if you're being competitive because it definitely is high variance. But the My Man Bellamy Grid deck here by King Lyle, aka Ikawa Bellamy Grid. This deck is not ashamed of the combo that it's trying to pull off, and that is glaciering up to this crazy remote server consisting of Heinlein Grid, Mason Bellamy, Strongbox, and there's Brian in there as well, which is a good call. And all of these cards together mean that stealing a card like the Ikawa project out of that server, or heck, even elective upgrades, is a real pain for the runner. In fact, he's gone so far with this deck that there's 3 copies of MCA Informant to keep Film Critic off the table, because Film Critic is the one thing that makes all of these steal conditions blank. And so he's not kidding around. Got to get MCA. And then to finish off that 7th point, right, because scoring 3-pointers is the name of the game, you can get that 7th point from a combination of False Lead, which has incredible synergy with Heinlein Grid that I think is hilarious, or Clones Are Not People, which allows you to snap up that last point. So, again, not an amazing deck from a competitive viability standpoint, but very fun to try out and see the memes in action.
Damon would be very happy if Mason Bellamy can gets more play. I like seeing the Strongbox. I think this is, again, you're going to say this is incredible variance to play. This is kind of like, again, my HB soapbox chant where you're trying to tax them out with click, click lock. Strongbox using the tools in the code gates and just hoping for the best.
Yep. If there was one suggestion I'd make to this deck from a card include, I would actually look at the other MCA Corp card out there, that MCA Austerity Policy. Not only does it give you that tax on the runner's clicks, but it also allows you to score out one of these hefty 3.5 advancement agendas straight from hand. So you don't even need to run them through your crazy Glacier server. There's a thought.
I do love the Clones Are Not People. I think I think currents are still underappreciated.
Oh yeah.
So you should definitely think about the current include. And then in chat, people were talking about Cyberdecks before. So there we see a one of. Yeah. I mean, on paper, it looks like it can do some stuff, but I can tell you that this one is a little trickier to get going. It especially because there's setup involved.
Right. So there's not a lot and not as much reliability with getting the right cards at the right time. And then if you're missing out on enough econ or the right defensive upgrades, or you get agendas at the wrong time, it kind of falls apart.
Yeah. And then also, I just like to point out too, although it does say it in the comments here about what can rip this deck, if we see a lot of people leveraging smoke and stealth, then obviously Glacier in general is going to have a hard time. But what that boils down to is basically, can you set up before they set up and start getting your pieces together? So sometimes you can play stealth and not see the cards you need still. So
Sure. Totally.
I mean, play what you want to play, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
there was one last one. It wasn't one of your 3 main clicks, but it did draw some attention. It's called No Clicks for You.
Ah, yes.
Do you have this one handy to walk through, Alec?
Yeah, let's talk about No Clicks for You. Solid deck. I'm really impressed. It definitely draws on a lot of those cards that we have discussed previously, but adds a couple new flavor dimensions that you can think about when putting together an Ace deck. What are some cards that stand out to you that we see in this list that we haven't seen in the other lists?
Miraju.
Yeah.
Miraju.
Very cool.
Yeah. I think I like that as a spicy addition. It's interesting actually because I believe someone in chat even had mentioned that they, when they looked at the available influence slot in another deck and how it's being utilized, Miraju seemed like a interesting include that could also be in those other decks. If for no other reason but to sort of just divert that attention away, divert resources away from the already quickly stout servers that are there. If the runner tries to get past this, the other one is the MCA austerity policy, my friend.
It's a pretty good card.
Yeah, pretty good. And I mean, it runs a 3x. The mentality of when I always admire people that build decks like this because I know that I root myself in certain fundamentals, and it's hard for me to maneuver away from it. So when I'm looking at a deck, I always expect, I'm like, oh wait, so probably 3x, Maryland's or 3x Adonis campaign, so on and so forth. And then I look at this deck and I see the 1x Maryland campaign, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Why the fundament, my foundation is shaking? Why is there only one? But I mean, really, this deck is just taking advantage of basically. It's doing everything they can to take advantage of the runner and remove as many clicks as possible from the runner's turn, so they can only make the one run in order to be able to get an agenda. I mean, basically, similar to the previous deck we saw, this just goes about it in a different way to basically prevent your opponent from being able to make the 2 and 3 runs. You get one, you get a single run because when you make that run, you're going to lose two or three clicks. So that single run has to be great.
Because they've got 3 of enhanced login protocol, right?
So I was going to say that I really like the enhanced login protocol. I think it's something that's been again, I'm a fan of some of these currents. I'm a current guy. So I think this is nothing to sleep on, especially okay, they're trying to pair it with Newshound to get some synergy there, but
that's good value.
Yeah. Hey, but I mean, as a one of, hopefully you see it when you need it. But I like the enhanced login protocols. With this ID being able to then install Strongbox, and then also your Mason Bellamy punishment. I really think that there's a reason why Damon picked this card to be his kind of swan song going away. I hope that. Well, I don't want it to get Caprice out of control, but I hope it becomes a thing for HB. And we get this click lock going, because I think it's a cool mechanic that's been on the fringe for too long. Check out this deck.
Definitely.
And again, a deck like this, obviously the Okawa Project is going to scream value. So just so good. All of these decks that we did talk about are in the description. Throw some stuff in the comments below. Make sure you highlight some of your decks. Tag them to this video so that other people can test them. And if they're drawn to this video, they'll look down there for deck ideas. So that's everything that I got for this ID.
Sounds good, man. I think we've covered a lot of the key considerations when thinking about what to include in this deck and deciding how much you want to just put in the good stuff versus try and pull off certain combos. It's really a blank canvas there. And we've given you some recommendations of cards we think are some of the best, but really, I'm just excited to see what people do with this ID. I don't think it's a solved puzzle yet.
No.
There's more to come.
Especially on pack 1, right? So
absolutely.
Definitely some flush out room. From myself, thank you guys very much for tuning in. Great turnout, as always, in here. Thanks for your support. Alec, you have anything to say? Because I'm going to give final closing thoughts to Mr. Hollis.
No, man. I'm good. Just keep running.
Hollis, wrap us up, man.
Wrap it up. Well, so let me start off by saying this is a bit of a different episode than we've done before. I think often we tend to discuss we discuss the packs, and then we give like sort of our rated tier list as we go through. We modify that later, and then we kind of give a let's talk about the entire cycle episode. But I really like going in depth like this, talking about existing deck archetypes as it relates to the ID and how it fits at that time. And of course, it's always something that we can review later as well to discuss it and see, what decks that we talked about before are now faring well in the competitive environment and things like that. So I really liked this discussion a lot. Hopefully you guys did too. But I have I hate to disappoint, but actually there's no real talk. I am just excited. Like, this is true. I'm just excited.
Yeah.
We have new cards. It feels like they're doing a great job of trying to take concepts that we had from the beginning of the game and just get them rebalanced to where they're good, but they're not ridiculous. And I'm really interested to see where the game is going to be. After we get the entire set out, it's going to be interesting. So I'm definitely gonna keep paying very close attention. I like it. I really dig it.
No doubt.
But for everybody else, guys, if you haven't noticed, we have a sponsor button where you can go show us a little bit of love. If you would, please, if you enjoyed the episode, if you have the time and you're so willing, go ahead and click that sponsor button, because the thing is, I didn't eat at all today, and I'm kidding. Guys, hit that sponsor button if you want to give us a little extra love and support.
Life.
But even if you don't hit the sponsor button, take a second here, like and subscribe to the video if you had a good time. And as always, guys, we do have a Patreon that you can go to. I want to honestly say it's just patreon.com/ is it Bad Publicity? Just Bad Publicity?
Yep.
Yep. So I mean, if you guys want to support us and show us some love there, we would really appreciate it as well. Anything you guys donate or provide, even when you like our videos, it basically gives us the ability to get better equipment and continue providing this content. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's breaking the bank, but it's a cost. It's a time investment as well, and we are so happy that you guys afford the time to be able to spend with us every week. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Let us know what you thought about this ID format. If for going forward, we know there's going to be a couple other IDs in this pack or this cycle as we've seen. If there's certain things that you'd like to see covered in ID breakdowns, let us know and we will add them into future episodes. We won't be going back and adding them into this episode, though. That's not happening.
No time travel.
Thank you very much, everybody. Catch you later.
See you guys.
Have a good night.